Some people spend their lives searching for the unknown, but for Al Santariga, the unknown has always been home. Born into a bloodline of psychics and intuitives, the paranormal wasn't a passing curiosity. It was his inheritance. Over decades, he's become more than a witness. He's an experiencer, an investigator, a researcher, a bridge between our world and the world just beyond the veil. His psychic abilities are clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and more, which allow him to see, hear, and sense what others cannot. And through his work in cryptozoology, ufology, and countless paranormal investigations, he's uncovered truths that challenge everything we think we know. As founder of the Bronxville Paranormal Society, the New York State UFO Project, the Sasquatch Organization, and the Dogman Project, Al has devoted his life to exploring what others fear to confront. He's been profiled in magazines, appeared in documentaries, and lectured to audiences who seek answers to questions most are too afraid to ask. Now, Al, known as Squatchfather, invites you to step into his world, a place where shadows whisper, legends breed, and reality bends, where the line between fact and folklore disappears, and the truth may be stranger than you ever imagined. Welcome, everyone. So glad to have you. Let me put the comments up here. Hello, lovely Pamela. Glad to have you. So glad. I miss you. Did you get my message? I hope you got my message. And guys, I am going to bring on this wonderful, amazing guest right now. We're not going to wait. Mr. Al Santariga. He is such an amazing investigator, and Al has some very interesting experiences to tell us that he went through recently. So, Al, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. Absolutely. Thank you very much. So I thought I'd start tonight with a history of I did a cleansing on a house last Saturday, and this particular house, this is my third time being there, and every time I've gone back, I've had to deal with a different kinds of entities. The first time I went back, I couldn't use my team psychic because she was going through back surgery, so I couldn't use her. She didn't feel like she was up to par. So I called a psychic out of Canada, Miss Katie Turner. Katie's been all over the Travel Channel, Discovery. She's very famous, and she walked me through the house and told me what I was dealing with. Behind this particular house is a Revolutionary War cemetery.
Okay.
And this development, which is like hundreds of acres of development, was all one farm at one time. And the colonel who's buried in the cemetery, it was his farm. So it was his land. And apparently some kids, a house or two over, went into the cemetery with a Ouija board, and they opened up a doorway. And when the colonel, they awoke the colonel went to the closest house, which happened to be my client's house. And the colonel was not very happy about the people in the house or his property, and did not like women. He was very abusive to women. And the women in the house were getting slapped around, pulled out of bed while they slept, pulled by their hair, and
oh my goodness,
kinds of stuff. So I went there, and at this particular time I went there, I went alone, and I had Katie walk the house with me, walk through the whole house with me, and she told me what was what. These particular clients have a lot of mirrors in the house. I don't know why, but they have a lot of mirrors, and they had two full-length mirrors facing each other, which created a portal in their bedroom. Yeah, it was insane. You walked into the bedroom, and the energy just knocked you to your knees. You had to sit down. It was really crazy. And so long story short, that particular time we went through a cleansing. We saged. We did salt. We did salt and sage, and I put stones. Katie told me to get certain stones, and I put the stones in certain rooms of the house. Each, depending on what room it was, used a different stone. I did a different stone for each room, and I buried St. Christopher crosses out in the property on the four corners of the property. And I have a concoction that I make up. It's called, I call it the Acqua di Dio in Italian. It means the water of God. And it's got a lot of different purification stuff in it. You know what I mean? And like sage oil and frankincense oil and myrrh oil and, all kinds of stuff like that. And what I did was, when we cleansed the house and we used holy water and holy oil in the house on the doors and everything, we cleansed the house from the attic to the basement. And when we went outside, I used the Acqua di Dio outside on the base of the house. And the family is a very psychic family to begin with.
Okay. That's important.
Yeah.
Because we need to explain to the viewers, because that already opens up activity, right? Is that?
Oh yeah, the husband and the children were indigo kids.
Oh.
And the wife has her own abilities, and the wife had a very chaotic energy, very chaotic. I mean, just sitting down at the table, having a cup of coffee, talking to her, it was like being in a tornado. So we said, okay, what we're going to do with you is we're going to set up a quartz crystal circle outside, a meditation circle. And you're going to go out there every day for 20 minutes and you're going to meditate. And you continue to do this, your energy will get better. You don't have such chaotic energy, But as far as the house goes, we saged and we used holy water. We used holy oil. And I was down in the basement, and he's got the main basement area, which was finished. It's a beautiful home. This home is humongous. Okay. And he also has a room, like a utility room where the boiler is and the oil tank and all that. And then he has the storage room. And I had him open all the windows and all the doors because I wanted to make sure we get everything out. And I'm sitting on the couch. And when I got there, I had never been to the house before. But the night before I got there, I had a vision of me sitting on this couch down in the basement. I didn't even know there was a couch in the basement.
Okay, very nice, very nice.
I myself sitting in the basement, and out of the boiler room came a shadow figure that ran along the wall and out the back door. So when I got to the house, I asked the client, "Do you, is the basement finished? Do you have furniture down there?" And he's like, "Yeah." When I went down there, it was exactly set up the way I seen it in my vision.
Nice.
So we started in the attic and we worked our way down. And like I said, it was an all-day process. I was working by myself. So it wasn't a job that I was going to do an investigation for, because I know the family personally my whole life. Okay. So I know everything they're telling me is the truth. So I decided not to do an investigation. And anyway, down in the basement, I'm sitting in there and I'm feeling the energy of the shadow figure in the boiler room. And I'm saying, and it's the Colonel, it's the Colonel. We know it's the Colonel. And I'm saying, "Come on, Colonel, you have to leave. I know you're in there. You're in there. You might as well leave." And the client is sitting next to me, and he's like, "I hate being down in this basement. It's got such a negative feeling down here. My father was staying down here for a month, and he got pulled out of bed, and he got slapped around, and my brother won't even come down in the basement." And I was like, "No, don't worry. The Colonel's here, and we're going to get the Colonel out." And I told the Colonel, I said, "Come on, Colonel. I know you're in there. You got to leave." And after about 10 minutes, we seen the shadow come out of the boiler room and run along the wall and out the back door. I said, "Okay, now closed the door, and then we went outside and we saged. I cleansed, I sealed the foundation of the house.
Okay.
And then I sealed the property line. And the funny thing was, when he bought the house 30 years ago, he's been in his house 30 years. When he bought the house, the woman who sold him the house said, "Don't worry about the ghost. They're friendly ghosts." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" You know?
Oh my goodness.
And,
Oh my goodness.
but apparently she wasn't dealing with the colonel. And on one side of the property line, she had witch hazel trees. She planted witch hazel trees. And he
Very
said, "Well,
nice.
I'm gonna cut these trees down." And she said, "No, don't cut these trees down. These trees are protecting the house, the property line. I planted them specially to keep the entities out, you know."
Mm-hmm.
So I was there for like 8 hours that day by myself. And I was so burnt out when I left that I ran out of that house and I left all my gear there. I left everything in the bags. And this client calls me up and he says, "Al, you got to come back to the house. You left all your stuff there." And I was like, "Dude, I'm not coming back to your house. You got to meet me on the road somewhere." I said, "I'm drained." I was physically drained for like a week. It just
I bet.
everything out of me. So then I told him, I said, there's a lot of layers here and you have to continuously sage. So the more you sage, the less and energy you'll have in this house. And eventually one day it'll all be gone. But there's a lot of layers and you have to sage. And he's like, yeah. And of course, he's like everybody else on this planet. They'll do it for a month or two, but when everything is nice and quiet and there's no more activity, they stop. Now, the wife was very diligent in doing her meditation, and I ran into her. We ran into them one night. We went out to eat. We ran into them at a diner. And her energy was like totally different. And I was like, "Wow, your energy feels great, And she said, like, "Yeah, I'm doing what you said. And I'm meditating. I got the quartz crystal circle facing east and all this stuff." But at one point, the husband and his son started picking on the wife, like making a joke out of her doing that. And she got mad and she stopped. And as soon as she stopped, her energy started to ramp up again. Okay. Yeah. So last year he calls me up and he says, "Al, you got to come back to the house. I'm having all kinds of energy, all kinds of problems. And it's different this time than it was the last time." And he sent me an audio and it sounded like heavy boots going up and down the steps. And it sounded like somebody pushing a gurney down his hallway. You can hear something being rolled down. And the wife recorded it like 2:00 in the afternoon. She heard something. She put her phone out in front of her bedroom door. She closed the door and she went in her bedroom and she recorded this sound, which was crazy. So I was like, there's movement going around. I feel like, and I don't know why I felt like this, but to me, it felt like people working, like servants.
Really?
Okay. And I felt like, okay, servants, this was a really, really big piece of property. The colonel had a lot of property. I'm sure the colonel didn't work it himself. He must have had slaves. So then I started researching slaves in New York State and found out that New York State had more slaves than any other state in the Union except for South Carolina. And there was a lot of them working up here in the Hudson Valley on the farms. So I was like, okay. So then I called my psychic, Cindy, in Arkansas, and she said, "Yeah, no, it's not the colonel. It's Steph." She goes, I'm feeling servants too. I'm feeling slaves." And she goes on to explain. She said, "Al, let me tell you about this property." She said, "This property has had a lot of death on it. A lot of war, a lot of blood. The land is soaked in blood." She said, "Native American wars between each other." She said she felt Native American wars between each other. She felt French Indian wars. She felt English wars against the French. She
Wow.
felt settler wars against the natives. She said this property has been drawing in negativity since the beginning of time. This land and this land is blood soaked. Plus, at the end, there was the Revolutionary War that came through as well. So she said, "There's a lot of wars there. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of death." So anyway, I go through and I show up. I got my cousin Sean with me this time, and we go through it. And so we started because it was slaves. I did some research and found out that a lot of the slaves up here in the Hudson Valley came from the islands, you know. So I reached out to a friend of mine. Her name is Miss Aida. Her last name is Severini. She's a hoodoo practitioner, and her family's bloodline comes from Cuba, I think, and she just knows her stuff. She's another person who's been on all over TV and all over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's got a ton of books as well. And she told me she said, this is what you need to get. And she gave me stuff to run because I didn't know what to use against slaves. You know what I mean? Whenever I come across something new, I have to research it, you know?
Sure.
And she said, okay, what you're going to use in the cleansing on this particular one, you're going to use herbs and oils. You're going to use sea salt, basil, and lavender. I never heard of using basil and lavender. This is new to me. Basil and lavender, talisman, white candles, and you know, all of this stuff. Go from room to room, let the candles burn. You know what I mean? Blow them out, let the smoke fill the room. And so we did this, and we were there for like 6 hours. Me and my cousin Sean. The energy didn't feel as bad the second time I was there as it was the first time. And maybe that's because I had my cousin helping me. I don't know. The first time was by myself. So we did that. And again, I told the client, be diligent, cleanse once a month. If you continue to cleanse once a month, I left them a ton of stuff to cleanse with. I always leave my clients a ton of stuff. I never ask for any money. I don't charge for my services. You know what I mean? I got into this to help people, and I left them a ton of stuff. And I said, do this religiously. And the more you do it, the better the house will be. He's been living in his house for 30 years with this stuff.
Okay.
He refuses to. He's not leaving. He's thick-headed. He's not going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But him and his wife, neither one of them want to be in the house, you know? So the house was good for a year. And then at some point he stopped. Okay. And I got a phone call a couple weeks ago. Al, you got to come back to the house. We're having issues again. You know, this, that, and the other thing. So I said, okay, let me call my psychic down in Arkansas, let her know what's going on, and see what she tells me, what I'm dealing with, you know? And so I called Cindy, and she said, all right, give me some time to focus in on the house and see what we're dealing with this. I mean, she told me, she's like, I told you the land is blood soaked and there's layers upon layers upon layers. And she had the image of an Indian chief come to her, and he told her, it's us. We're not happy. And so it's the Native Americans now. Okay. So I know what kind of Native Americans were up here in New York. You know what I mean? The Iroquois tribe was the main tribe, and then everybody who branched off of them, all the other tribes branched off of the Iroquois. So she says, okay, you know, what you need to do is you have to do a Native American cleansing. So I went to the Iroquois Museum because I know the people who run the museum there. I've been going there for years. They know who I am when they see me walk in, and they're like, oh, Al, what do you want? You know? And I was like, listen, I have an issue. I need to know what I need to do to cleanse this property. And they told me, they said, okay, white sage for cleansing, cedar wood, burnt cedar, white sage,
Oh,
sweetgrass, they told me, and tobacco.
now tobacco. I've heard of tobacco with Native Americans.
Yeah,
With
and
plants. Okay.
again, like I've used white sage before. I've never used cedar or sweetgrass, and I've used tobacco before as well, but not for cleansing, for other things to bring things in, like with the Sasquatch and stuff. But so I went there. A friend of mine, he wants to get into the paranormal. So I said, come with me. It's a good learning opportunity for you. But
Yeah.
this time, Cindy said, do me a favor. Do an investigation before you cleanse. Let's see what we get. Because I think if you do an investigation and you get evidence, because I've never went there to do an investigation. I've always gone there to cleanse. She goes, maybe we can
Okay.
put this to bed once and for all, So
Right.
we went there and it's crazy, it's crazy how these things go. I thought I had all the contingency plans ready in case something didn't work, because whenever you go to these investigations, something doesn't work for some reason or
Right.
another. And I,
Right.
I thought I had everything covered, triple amount of batteries, because you know how the batteries get drained right away. I
Yeah.
brought solar chargers to make sure I can run equipment continuously without having to change batteries out, all kinds of stuff. First thing I do when I get there, set up a K2 meter and a periscope wand in one of the main bedrooms, which is very active. And I went with three different voice recorders because they're all set to different frequencies. And you never
Okay.
know what you're going to catch on what frequency.
True. And can I stop you there? So,
Yeah.
is it the same exact recorder, just set on different frequencies, or
Nope.
three different
Three
recorders?
different manufacturers, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I
Very
got
nice.
one that's voice activated that only goes off. I got one that runs continuously for 72 hours. And I went old school. I got a mini tape recorder with the little cassettes, and I had
Yeah.
one of them. And I recorded in each room with all three of them. So I break out the full spectrum camera, films the full spectrum and infrared. As soon as I give it to the kid who's assisting me, I said, "Hey, you'll work this camera, and I'll work the thermal imager."
Uh-huh.
And as soon as I gave him the camera and he turned it on, it said SD card full. So I couldn't use the camera all day because I didn't bring any extra SD cards. And that was the one thing I didn't take with me, extra SD cards, And I was like, I can't believe this. So I said, okay, let's pack that away. We're not going to use that. But so then I broke out, the thermal imager. And for some reason, I couldn't get the thermal imager to come in focus. The whole day, it would not come in focus. I couldn't film in thermal and I couldn't film in IR or full spectrum. So I was like, okay, all right, you want to play this game? Let's play this game.
Oh my goodness. But you're right though. That happens when we go on investigations. It's like you have to prepare for anything to happen because it's like it does. It's crazy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean it's absolutely, and I knew going in, I never had an issue of getting the thermal imager to focus. That never happened to me before. That was something new that I experienced. The SD card running out, that's never happened to me before. So I bought a new toy. It's called a millimeter, and it has three different settings on it. It does temperature, it does EMF, and it does proximity. It's like a proximity sensor.
Nice.
I tested it out before I left my house, and all three worked wonderfully. I got to that house, and I turned it on, and the EMF meter wouldn't go on. And
of course.
No, the EMF meter wouldn't go on, and the temperature gauge wouldn't go on. The only thing that worked was the proximity sensor out of the three.
Oh,
so
well.
I was like, okay, well, I'll work with what I got, right?
Yeah.
So, but I also like to go old school, new school. So I also brought quartz crystal pendulum, dowsing rods, and an old school compass, right?
Uh-huh.
So we're filming, and the EMF meter is not going off whatsoever. But the periscope one, which indicates positive and negative ions. It lights up green for positive ions, red for negative ions. The periscope wand was going crazy. So we filmed that with our cell phones, because that's all we had left to film it, with our cell phones. So we filmed that with our cell phones. And then we filmed the one old school, and we got great footage of the, and I love letting newbies use the dowsing rods.
Oh, yeah.
I love the expression on their face when they feel the energy go through them, you know?
It's something, isn't it?
Oh my God, it's amazing, because I remember that feeling the first time I used them, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, holy crap, Al, this is insane. These things were spinning like helicopter tops, you know?
You know, I feel like that is something that every human being should experience at least one time, so that they can actually feel the vibration of energy. If they, especially like if they're not open, you know, to feeling energies and stuff, so that they can actually feel it, because it is just so, it's incredible.
And it's amazing.
And you're like, and that's like the eye-opening point of, oh my gosh, this is real.
Yeah,
this is really real.
And the person assisting me, he's had a lot of paranormal experiences in his life, you know, but he's never did any investigation, so this was all new to him. But to feel that energy go through his hands and up his arms and through his body, his face just lit up like, wow, I got to get me some of these, you know. And my dowsing rods, I painted the tips of them fluorescent orange, so when I'm filming at night with the UV light, they light up. And
that's a great idea.
And you can see them spinning, you know, they're like, it's like boom, that's just like bang, because you can't see them at night if they're not, you know, if you don't have a regular light on, you know, they're copper, you can't see them, they're dark, you know. And so we went through the whole house, and every room we investigated, we filmed, and we did all kinds of stuff. We used an ovilus, you know, we used a ghost radar trying to see if we could track this thing. And
nice.
We had a lot of success. In the master bedroom, I got video. It's really the only room in the house that I have video where orbs were flying all over the house. It looked like one of them came right out of the dowsing rod too, you know?
What? Really?
Yeah, it's crazy, yeah. And we did that, and we went from room to room. And after we did the investigation, and then it was in the beginning when I was interviewing them, they both said something to me that like piqued my attention. They said to me, the wife said, when I'm home alone, I constantly hear him calling me. Something is mimicking him. And he says, and vice versa. When I'm here alone, I hear her voice calling me, but I know she's not home. So I was like, okay, I'll just keep that in the back of my mind. So we went through each room, and this is a big house, and we were there all day, and there was two of us, and we came to a room that is now a dining room. There was originally a dining room, but when her father was living with him, because he was in hospice, he was passing away, they turned the dining room into a bedroom for the father.
Okay.
And the father passed away in that room. And I don't know what kind of relationship she had with her father, but we were in that room, and she had the dowsing rods, and she was asking her father, and we were filming, and this is like a very awkward moment, because, you know, I didn't know, like I said, I don't know what kind of relationship she had. I didn't know what she was going to ask. I'm asking the typical things. If there's anything here, cross. If you know, open up, cross for yes, you know, stuff like that. You know, and I'm trying to teach the new guy you want one word answers, like yes, no, yes. Don't ask too many questions in a row. You know what I mean? You'll confuse them. And she comes in and she's like, Daddy, do you forgive me? And you could have like heard everybody hold their breath, like, oh God, she's asking for forgiveness. And the dowsing rods aren't moving. And she's like, please forgive me, Daddy, please. And the dowsing rods aren't moving. And she's starting to shake. And I was like, wait a minute, give me these dowsing rods. And I gave them to the kid who was asleep. I said, hold the periscope wand. Let's see what happens. And as soon as she held the periscope wand, and I was like, if you forgive your daughter, light the periscope wand up, but light up both sides. And it's very unusual that you get negative and positive ions lighting up at the same time. You usually get one or the other. Mm-hmm. And I said, light up both sides if you forgive your daughter. And the periscope wand lit up. And I was like, hallelujah. Wow. And she started crying hysterical because she got the answer she wanted. And she asked him like 3 different times, are you sure you forgive me? And every time she asked him, it lit up again and again and again. And I was like, how many times you want him to tell you he forgives you? He forgives you, And it was very emotional because she was very emotional, and it was a very emotional moment. And then we went into another room, which he had set up for his grandkids. It was a Barbie room. He's got 2 little twin granddaughters, and he set it up, a spare room, as a Barbie room. But the kids won't go in there because they say there's a monster in there, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we went in there. And I don't know if it's a Native American all dressed up in its garb or whatever, but the kids won't go in there. They're deathly afraid of the Barbie room. So we went in there and we filmed, and I caught an orb in there too.
Oh, did you?
That room and the master bedroom, the only 2 rooms we caught orbs. We only caught 1 in the Barbie room. I caught like 3 upstairs in the master bedroom. And we cleansed it, and that's that and the other thing. And then we left. We were there all day. We left, and I went home and I started listening to all they wanted me to play the EVPs for them in real time, And I was like, no, I'm too tired. I can't do that now. I'd rather go home, put the headphones on, listen to it nice and quiet. I don't do it in front of the clients for one reason and one reason only, is the last thing I want the clients to hear is the word demon come out of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if demon is going to come out, let it come out at my house where they don't hear it. You know what I mean? And the kid who was assisting me said, why wouldn't you do it in real time? We were outside talking about a car, and he goes, why wouldn't you play it from real time? And I explained to him, you don't want them to hear the word demon, or no. And no, he said, so I went home and I listened to all 3 recorders in every single room. And in one of the rooms, I hear, sounds like me, say the word bastard, but he said it in a whisper. So I called up the kid who was assisting me, and I said, hey, Joe, when we were in such and such a room, did I ever use the word bastard? I don't remember saying bastard,
Mm-hmm.
And Joe's like, no, you didn't say the word bastard all day. He goes, why? I said, because I got a recording of somebody who's mimicking me. Sounds like me saying the word bastard. And then I thought back to what they told me, the mimics of them. So whoever was ever mimicking them mimicked me because I was the one running the investigation. But I only caught it on 1 recorder. You know what I mean? And I didn't catch any more EVPs in the rest of the house. Now, I watched all the videos, and I got a ton of videos. I watched all the videos because I'm looking for orbs and shadows and stuff like that. I have to go back and rewatch them all again, but this time focus on EVPs. You know what I mean? I can't focus on two things. If I'm looking for shadows, I'm looking for shadows. If I'm looking for
Right.
if I'm doing EVPs, I got to focus on EVPs. I can't multitask like that, you know.
Right. Well,
Along,
it's not easy when you're going through and you're editing, or you're like you're talking about, you're trying to focus on what you can find. You have to. I mean, at least myself, I'm the same way. I have to do piece by piece. One object at a time, because a lot of times it's easily missed. It can be like split second, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the orbs were like that. The orbs were so quick. And I made sure that when we went in the house, I said, don't put any lights on. Keep all the curtains closed. I'm not filming with any lights on my camera, because if we get orbs, I want them to be orbs. I don't want them to be mistaken for reflection off a mirror or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't want any, because I had an old client send me a video saying, "Oh, I'm filmed orbs all over my house," and she sent me the video, and I looked at her video, and she's got like 6 million Christmas lights on in the house, and she's got all this tinsel and stuff all over the mirrors. And I called her back. I was like, "No, that wasn't an orb. That was a reflection from the light on your camera, you filming all the Christmas stuff, the lights on the Christmas tree blinking, reflecting off the mirror." And she was like, "Okay, I could sleep easy tonight, you know."
Yeah.
But I just wanted to send it to you, Al, to make sure. I was like, "Yeah, no problem. That was easy to debunk, you know."
Well, it is, very important that we do debunk, because there are so many things that can literally look, it can really look like it's a spirit, or it's smoke, or, the smoke like spirit, or, just so many different things. And so it's really, really important for us to debunk ourselves and, anyone that we're with. I feel like that's a really necessary, not just a good thing to do, but, not just a good practice, but it's very necessary, because, the whole point to me of investigating the paranormal is to get documented proof, and to help learn. Once you start getting that documented proof, start learning as much as you can about it and teach others. Because, just like like in the mountains, in the Appalachia, there are a lot of people that do believe in ghosts, but then there are a lot as well that they might believe in it, but at the same time, it's demonic, and
Yes,
when it's not always, when it's not always that way, a lot of times it's
absolutely
not.
Yeah, very
So,
far and few between. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I feel like, that's why it's so important for us to, get the actual documented information out there, so we can start teaching people, like, hey, not everything's negative, not everything's like what you see on TV. Yes, there are negative energies, yes, but there's also many beautiful positive ones too, and it's kind of like shifting the focus onto what's real, what's true, instead of, allowing people to stay stuck in, let's see, how can I say this? Just in a mentality of not knowing, when the evidence is here now. You guys have got so much evidence, and people around the world have so much evidence now that's documented. Now it's like getting the truth out there. I feel like that's a big part of the thing, and to deliver it in a way that they can see that it's believable.
Because I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, you have to show people that not everything is demonic. Yeah, there are a lot of entities all around us all the time that we can't see in different spectrums of light. And there are things that come through portals every day. Portals open up continuously every day on this planet, all over the world, and stuff comes through. And just because something comes through and you don't know what it is, or it doesn't necessarily make it something evil. You know what I mean? It could be evil, sure, but it
Right.
doesn't necessarily make it evil, you know? So you have to,
Right.
you can't, the problem with human nature is that if we don't know what it is, it scares us. And if we're scared, we think everything is demonic.
Right.
You know what I mean? So this is the way
Yes.
human nature is, you know, and
Right.
you have to
Well,
break
I
that
mean,
mentality.
I've been called demon possessed since I was little, because of the abilities. So, it's like, yeah, I get it, Al. But I'm not. That's the, and it's like teaching. It's like getting people to understand. It's like, no, I am filled with the love of Jesus Christ. Jesus himself is within me. And it's like, but it's, to me, the way I see it is people tend to, and I'm just speaking the areas that I have been in and, people's belief systems. People tend to put a cap on what God can do.
Yeah.
Like, oh, God's not going to do that. God can't, and it's like, really? Really?
Yeah.
A human being who is not very
I just ordered
intelligent.
two books for Christmas. One is the Ethiopian Bible that has all the books in it that were edited out of the Christian Bible. So I get to read those 18 books or whatever I can't remember the exact number how many books are edited out, but I get to read all those books.
I'll have to get with you because I would like to get those. I love the missing books of the Bible.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I have whatchamacallit, what's his name? I can't think of the guy's name now. I'm drawing a blank, but I have one of them, but I don't have this particular Bible has all 18, and that's the reason why I want that Bible, because I want to read Noah. I think it's Noah, right?
Okay.
No. Is it Noah? No, maybe it's not Noah. I don't remember. But anyway, and I got the book. It's called the Book of Wisdom.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's volume 1 and volume 2, and it breaks down all the signs and everything, and what the secret meanings are to these like secret societies and stuff like that.
Really?
Illuminati,
love it.
Numerology, and it has all kinds of stuff in it, and I can't wait to get my hands on both of them. You know what I mean? So
very nice.
Yeah.
Al, we have, if I can interrupt just a moment,
Absolutely.
we have some comments and questions. So let's see. Okay, Jack Mack said, I remember a video of a lady facing 2 mirrors and she walks into it and never returned. So Jack Mack, if you're still here, when you saw that, are you for sure that like it wasn't AI, like 100%, or was it something that was AI and it was just something that you wanted to talk about? What are your ideas about that, Al?
Well, obviously, if you place 2 mirrors in front of one another, they're going to create a portal, okay? And if you walk in between them, you can walk into a portal. Like I know a person who was filming. They were out in the field filming, and they were filming with a thermal imager, okay? And a portal opened up in the field, and 3 of the teammates went to check out the portal, and when they got into the portal, they were invisible on thermal. They were gone.
What?
And this person was like, I didn't think that anything would knock out the heat signature, but whatever this portal, the energy this portal was creating, these 3 people who walked in there were all invisible on thermal. And when they came out the other side, all 3 of them died years later for cancer.
Oh, no.
Yes. So I don't know what they walked into. They were very lucky to able to walk through and actually come back in this time, in this reality. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that if you put 2 mirrors together, you create a portal and you walk in between them, you could walk into a different realm, a different reality, a different time. and no one will ever see you again. Absolutely. Yeah,
Very interesting.
I have a thing about taking photographs into mirrors. Okay.
Okay.
And I don't know why I'm so reluctant to do it. I don't have any bad memories in my life of having bad experiences with mirrors. But
Yeah.
every time I'm in an investigation and I feel like I need to take a picture into the mirror, and I don't take it unless I feel like I need to take it, I force myself to take that photograph. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've never come up with anything, at least that I noticed in the mirror, but it's just a weird vibe that I have to force myself to do. And I don't ever remember having a bad experience with it, but who knows, in another lifetime and another, what I could have had a bad experience. I don't know,
Yeah.
and it could just be something that comes back to me, in that moment when, because I don't have a problem looking in the mirror, brushing my teeth or anything. So, yeah, no, it's just crazy. Mirrors to me are very, very powerful. I've done. I was at a haunted hotel one time with my cousin Sean, and I'll send you the picture later.
Yeah, please do.
And Sean says, "Come on, let's go into the scribing room." I was like, I don't know if I want to go in there. You know what I mean? Not a big fan of mirrors. He's like, come on, cuz, let's go in. So he's 20 years old. He's full of piss. Okay, let's go in. So we go in. I'm sitting down. I got the candle in front of me. I'm looking deep into the mirror. He's standing up. He's like 6'5". He's standing up behind me. And he taps me on the shoulder. And I'm just looking straight ahead. I'm not even looking up at him. I'm just looking straight ahead. And he goes, yo, cuz, look at my eyes. And I look up, and he's got brown eyes, normal eyes. And I look up, and his eyes are green, and they're slitted like a reptilian's eyes. And I look at him, and I'm like, neither one of us, we were so blown away by what we were seeing that neither one of us took a photograph of it. So we walk out. And as we walk out, this young girl walks in. Now, this young girl, my cousin being 20-year-old kid, was hitting on her during the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because she's like 20 years old, too. And I told her, I said, Sean, stay away from that chick. She's got something attached to her. You know what I mean? I could feel the energy around her.
Okay.
And she went in. She went in right after us. And she was in there 5-10 minutes. And she came out and she said, look at the photographs I took. And we look at the first photograph she took when she first got in there with the candle, and her eyes are normal. And then 10 minutes later, she took another photograph, and her eyes were glazed over white, looked like eggs.
Really?
Creepy. When she came out and showed everybody the photograph, all of the investigators that were on this round table, everybody's sharing notes, and she showed the picture, and everybody in the room just looked at it and said, oh man, this is creepy.
Not good.
Yeah, rolled over white. It looked like two eggs in her head. You know what I mean? It was just creepy looking. Yeah. It was,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so again with mirrors and scribing and stuff like that, I have to force myself to do it. But like I probably wouldn't have done it that night if Sean didn't push me into it. But I said, he wants to do it. He feels like he was very psychic, my cousin Sean, and he felt like he needed to do it, and he did it. And this is what we, and he said, look up, and I looked up, and I was like, holy crap! He's still got cat eyes, and they're green. But when we stepped out, we got outside the scribing room. He was back to normal again,
Wow.
And he had no ill effects or anything. So,
that's good.
No, it's just there's stuff that happens, and I mean it's mind blowing when you experience it, and it's mind blowing when you capture evidence and stuff like that. And I still have a lot of video to go through, and a lot of stuff to go through, like all of the stuff that I use, all the ITC stuff, it will, not only does it document like the obelisk, not only does it document what it says, but it'll give you the date and the time it said it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, I gotta see if those words or that's correlate to anything that we were talking about at the time. You know, so
Sure.
a ton of evidence to go through, but I'm hoping to put this house to rest once and for all. But you know, I don't know because of all the different layers of death and blood, and I got to be honest with you. Because I did the investigation this time, and because I was using 3 different recorders set for different frequencies, and then I'm using my camera, which is set for a different frequency. So really, I'm using 4. I really didn't know what we were going to capture as far as EVPs go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That blood and death on that land, it wouldn't surprise me. And with 3 different graves between the Revolutionary grave site and the Native American and the slave cemetery, it wouldn't surprise me if there was something dark that was attracted there at some point in time, you know? But I haven't run across anything yet. Not to say there's not something on the property, because we're talking of like 1,000-acre farm with a lot of homes on it. They're spread out. They're big homes with a lot of property between them. But, you know, according to my psychic and according to Katie Turner, their house is not the only one having issues. He did talk to one of his neighbors, and one of the neighbors said they got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and they looked out the bathroom window, and it faces the cemetery, and they seen the colonel come out of the cemetery and walk directly into their basement.
Wow.
Yeah, but apparently the colonel doesn't bother them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because they're not psychic, you know what I mean? Where
Could be.
The other family, the whole family's got psychic abilities, and maybe because they have these abilities, they can see him or feel him, and it pisses him off. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, you know, and Al, if I could interrupt, I have a question. I would like to figure out your perspective on this, because this is something that I have really, really wondered about for many years now. So, what is your? Hold on, there goes a vehicle. Sorry, guys, I live right in town. You guys could probably hear that. Okay, so what is your perspective on demon? Now, we're talking about energetically. Demon versus a person who is stuck or chooses to stay earthbound, who is still in the frame of mind that they were before they passed, pretending to be demonic, coming through equipment saying demon to scare people when it's not actually a demon. Also, what you were talking about earlier, because I experienced things like this too when I was very young, growing up. It was very tormenting. Usually around 3 a.m. every morning, I was screaming, "Mom!" And my mom, had to come in there, and she would open the Bible, and it was crazy. Things moving me. My mom, she was levitated one time above the bed.
Wow.
She couldn't scream. She couldn't do anything. There was always, but see, both of my parents had abilities too. They just didn't know it because of the belief system. They just looked at everything as visions from God, and there was, that was it. So it was angels or demons, right? Kind of thing.
So angels or demons, yeah.
Yeah. But so I guess I would like to know what your thoughts are too about how much energy, because I know there's like an energetic amount that an entity can do. So like demons are usually that I know of, and by all means, I don't know near as much as you guys, right? But it's like I know that with demons that I have experienced, they are extremely strong and much stronger than the earthbound. What are your thoughts on that? And also, how can an earthbound, because I've heard different scenarios of people, other psychics saying that people can, who have crossed over, but they're still on, in the in between, where they combine their energies together to make themselves stronger, to actually be able to have the energy to elevate someone or pull someone out of the bed. How does that work?
Well, when I first started the paranormal investigation, my first aha moment was when I realized people who were negative in life carry that negativity over in death. Okay? If you're a mean, nasty person in life, you carry that energy over in death. And those are the people who usually want to stick around. They don't want to move on to the light. They don't want to move on to the next dimension. They just want to stay here because they know they know that in their entity state, they have the ability to scare the hell out of people, and scaring people gives them power and makes them feel good, and they get off on that. And that's why they don't want to move on. Because they're afraid to go someplace dark where they don't have any power, or B, go someplace light where they have to deal with judgment. You know what I mean? So
Right.
They stay here where they know what scares us because they were human too, so they know what scares us.
Right.
Demons, you're talking about, they're playing on a whole different level. You got to remember, the fallen angel, a lot of these demons were angels,
Mm-hmm.
and when they fell from heaven and they chose to follow Lucifer, and he was the angel of light, you know what I mean? And he became the angel of darkness. And so you can't kill a demon. Okay. Demons, you can only, push them along. You know what I mean? You can't kill them. They'll go from one person to another. They're very powerful. They know what scares us. They hear our thoughts. They can mimic anything. Anything if they want to gain your trust, they'll read your thoughts and they'll see what you're thinking, and they can either become that cute little ghost girl in the corner, or that dog man in the corner. They're looking to shred you. They can become anything. And as far as your parents being paralyzed and levitated and stuff like that, yes, demons can do that easily, without a doubt. But so can aliens. So maybe your parents.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Being that they had abilities, maybe they were being abducted because of their abilities, and they're only remembering being brought up or being brought down, and not anything that happens in between.
That makes so much sense, because see, I have been abducted many, many times, and I go there a lot now. I can't even really call it abducted. They don't do anything to hurt me. They teach me stuff. It's like kind of like and it's through consciousness that they bring me. It's not my actual body. But the interesting thing is, though, so Brian, on one of the shows I did with him, he was explaining about that, and how it made so much sense. Like, he said that when I was a child, that they more than likely had been already taking me and just like swiping my memory, basically. But he was describing like the nose, and that's what triggered me. I said, oh my gosh. And it made me remember when I was little, like most of my childhood, there would be times, Al, it was the craziest thing. And, I was always like medically, even as a little kid, 3 years old, I knew I wanted to be a nurse. So, So I was always, picking and looking and investigating everything, with the body. And there were times it never made sense to me. It was literally, I thought was mucus as a little child. I thought it was mucus. But the thing is, it was like a long cord. I would get up the next morning and I would like literally pull it out of my nose, and it was perfectly round every time. It was like a cord. Like if you think of like really, really small IV tubing, but it didn't have, the center in it. It was completely solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they say, and I've been abducted at least 2 times that I know of, probably more than that. But they say every time you get abducted and you come back, your abilities come back stronger with you. Your psychic abilities get stronger and stronger. As a kid growing up in the city, I got into a lot of fights. Okay. I got into a lot of fights with a lot of different people, and I had a really bad temper, and I would get punched in the nose, and I never got a bloody nose. I got a fat lip and a black eye, but I never got a bloody nose. But after I had my first UFO sighting, right after that, I started waking up with bloody noses all the time.
Did you?
All the time. I mean, it looked like someone slit my throat in the middle of the night. My pillow would be covered in blood. There would be blood on the wall. And I would tell him, I would ask my father, I said, Pop, what's going on? Why is all this blood? And my father says, oh, it's because you don't sit still at night. You're flipping and flopping, and you hit your face against the wall, and your nose bleeds. And as a 10-year-old kid, you say, okay, it makes sense. But as an adult, you say, wait a minute, I got punched in my nose by some big dudes, you know what I mean? Straight on. And my nose never bled. So you're telling me rolling over in my sleep is going to make my nose bleed like my throat was slashed? No, that didn't make any sense. Yeah.
No, that doesn't.
And it didn't start happening until after my first sighting, my very first sighting. And then it happened all my life after that, But I mean,
so many things.
Yeah, there's so many rabbit holes you can go down with the paranormal and the different entities and things like that. But
yes.
You know who John Zaffis is, right?
Yes, love it. Yes,
I was on an investigation with Zaffis I went out with him a couple times.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Awesome.
As a matter of fact, the last one I went out with, I went all old school, right? So
did you really?
Yeah, I'm sitting next to John, and there's all these other investigators, and they got suitcases full of all ITC devices, just all kinds of equipment, crazy. I walk in with my little backpack, I throw it on the table, and I start pulling out my recorder, that's my cassette recorder, and my dowsing rods, and my quartz crystal pendulum, and my compass. And John looks at my stuff and he goes, what's this, 1975 all over again?
Oh
no. And I started laughing. I go, and I also had a Polaroid camera with me that night and a 35 millimeter. And I said, I'm tired of all the pareidolia in the photographs. Yeah. I know when I take a picture with this 35 millimeter, if it's in the negative, if there's something in the photo and it's in the negative, I know it's legit. It's there. With the Polaroid, when I pull that thing out in 3 minutes, if there's something on that thing, I know it was there. You know what I mean? Sure. And he really liked it and stuff. He was really, really nice and really, really funny and stuff. But I asked him a question. I said, John, would all the demonic stuff that you've dealt with the Warrens and everything, and all the exorcisms that you've done over the years, have you ever run into the same demon more than once?
Oh, that's a good question.
And he looked at me and he said, why would you ask me that? I said, just felt like I'm just curious, because I know you can't kill the demon energy. You can just banish him to somewhere else, right? And he goes, I did a exorcism in Boston one year, and it was him and the Warrens, and they banished this demon out of, and they got the name of the demon out of the person. Once you get the name, you can banish the demon. They got the name and they got the demon out. He said that was in the winter, saying December. In July, he's got a conference in Manhattan, in the middle of Manhattan, and he's walking through he was down in the Bowery, lower Manhattan. He's walking through the Bowery, going to this event, and he looks in an alleyway, and it's like 10 homeless people sleeping in the alleyway in boxes, and he says one of them just jumps straight up, like humanly impossible to jump straight up. He said this guy jumped straight up, ran right over to him, right in his face, and said, "John Zaffis, I know who you are." And he goes, "At that moment, I knew I was dealing with the same demon.
Same one.
That he dealt with up in Boston." And he called him by name, and the thing ran away. I got goosebumps just telling that story, because he blew my mind when he told me that. I was like, wow. So they do recognize you. Not only do they recognize you, but they tell others about you. Other ones, they talk to one another.
You're talking about like other demons.
Yeah, the demons will
they do. Yeah. Like communities. Yes.
Yeah. He said it's all consciousness, it's all telepathic kind of stuff. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I asked a spirit about 2 years ago maybe, when I lived in Inverness, Florida. I asked, and because there was a lady that kept coming to me, so I couldn't get her to go. She was trying. It wasn't a thing that I was wanting to make her leave, because she was trying to relay information to me. Is what it was. She was asking for help, so it wasn't a thing. I wanted to make her leave. So I let her hang around until she could show me in vision and tell me. Anyways, during the process, I would kind of take breaks, and not because it was heavy stuff, and I would take breaks, and I would say, I would like some information if you don't mind. I'm very interested about other realms, and I tried to find out what dimension she was in, if she could tell me, and she never did answer that, but she did answer this. I asked her if spirits communicate, because first of all, I asked her, can you see me? Can you tell me, what color? Are you seeing my energy, or are you actually seeing my physical body? Can you tell me what color my shirt is? And I believe I had on a red shirt that day, and she told me red shirt. Okay. So yes, they can see, but I've had other entities that I've spoken to, and they could only see my energy. So I feel like that is like wherever they are, whatever dimension they're in, is as to what they can actually see with us. But going back to the community thing, so I asked her, I said, do you communicate like we do in, human physical form in the 3D? And I can't remember the exact words. I have it in my phone as a phone note, but it was something along the lines of course we do, of course, letting me know there's no difference. So they still do just like we do. It's like when you cross over, it never ends. It never stops. It's not like you're in this big void alone, unless you made some choices.
Right, you made some bad choices, yeah. And then again, I don't know if you're alone either. So you know what I mean? Yeah. True. But, I mean, it's stuff like that most people don't think about, and never, those thoughts never cross most people. 99% of the population's minds. You know what I mean? And and it's like people like us who investigate and are in this world. We come up with these crazy questions, I never thought, and I do that to myself all the time. Like I'll do something that I've never done before, and I was like, wow, what, I should do this. And then I was like, then I think about it, and I get a response, and I was like, wow, I can't believe I've never thought about that sooner in all these years. Why hasn't that thought ever crossed my mind? Maybe because I wasn't ready for it at that point in time in my life. I don't know. Maybe my my vibration wasn't high enough for that thought to cross my mind. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, yeah, and they do. They communicate with one. The same thing with the entities. And I'm assuming that no matter what realm you're in, and the other entities that are in that realm with you, even if they're different than you, they could probably still communicate with one another. And because they're working on a different, level. Once you start working on that telepathic communication, higher consciousness level, you're working on a different level.
Okay, so if it's okay, I would like to go back and say this a different way for people that may come on the channel that are just getting into the paranormal or trying to understand it. So basically what you're saying is, Al, that it is possible and it is very probable that it happens that different realms, whether it's demonic, whether it's people that have passed on and they're staying earthbound or staying in another in-between realm, or any other higher realm, that they can still communicate with each other. So that's what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah. That's just one of my theories. It's speculation. I don't have any proof about that, but other than John telling me that they communicate with one another, and like he's been on other investigations where they've gotten names from demons. And the demon says, "Oh, I've heard about you, John Zaffis," but he never met that particular demon, like, well, how do you know about me? Someone else had to tell him about me, you know what I mean? Yeah, so it's just crazy stuff.
And okay, so like I just got another thought. Okay, when you're talking about John, so I was thinking about the room in the house, the Annabelle and all the other stuff, right? Okay, so if we're talking about different entities that can all communicate with each other from other realms, so if you think about it, I mean, that does make sense, Al. If you got all of these different items that are supposed to be haunted and possessed and all this stuff in one room, there's got to be all these different entities inside, which I don't, they say that that they've got the room basically where the entities cannot leave. I don't know, right?
He claims that everything he's got has been bound and sealed. Yeah. But just because it's bound and sealed doesn't mean it can't communicate with the next entity over to his right, you know what I mean? Or over to his left. Yeah.
Yeah, because okay. Now here's another thought. So, okay, I don't know can you see my crystals back there? My quartz?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So I scry quartz crystal. Well, I scry anything, but those are quartz. Now, if you think about this, so I literally communicate with spirits that are within everything, whether it's trees, whatever. Okay, I communicate with the spirits. So knowing that there are literal spirits within everything, within, the rocks, just like with us. So knowing that and going back to what you just said about even if they're bound, they're still in that object. So that really makes sense about how they could transfer and talk to each other like that, even though they're bound, because they're all in the same room. So that gives me another thought. My head's just oh my gosh. Okay.
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I have another thought. So if that's true, then what happens when how can I say this? Okay, so let's say we're in the Warrens' room again, okay? Now, let's say you do have all of these objects that are bound, and so they have we know at least one, should be at least one entity attached. Okay. So, do you feel like there could be multiple in these items? Multiple? I believe that more than that, just my belief from what I've experienced, that more than one entity can acquire a human, anything. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there are certain objects that have more than one entity attached to it. Absolutely. Now you have to remember when we're talking about communicating telepathically or consciously, something that vibrates at a very low frequency is not going to be able to communicate with something that vibrates at a very high frequency. You know what I
Okay.
mean? But it will be able to, even being bound and sealed, communicate with other things, and it's at that frequency, or lower. Just it's not going to be able to. The consciousness is not just going to be able to rise above that frequency that it's at. So something dark is not going to be able to communicate with something positive that's vibrating at a higher frequency, or a higher consciousness. Yeah.
Okay.
But they can communicate. But birds of a feather can, stick together. But I do believe, even in the Bible, I think Jesus talks about taking like 13 or 30 demons out of one person. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I forgot what the number was exactly, but it was a multiple demons. Yeah. And
Yes.
so if all of those demons can attach to one person, why can't it attach to an object as well? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do believe
If
that.
they find that object to be the perfect host, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I believe that a lot of these haunted dolls, I believe, something about dolls, but I do
Yes.
believe that a lot of these haunted dolls have more than one thing attached to it as well. Yeah.
That, I believe that. I believe that too. And the funny thing is, I was right as you started saying that. I was thinking to myself, the Annabelle doll. How do we know Annabelle does not have multiple? How do we? I mean, honestly, how do we know it's just one?
I think because Lorraine Warren felt the energy of it, and she was able, like my psychic says, she can tell what she's dealing with through energy signatures.
Uh-huh.
Even like we were on an investigation once, and she said, I'm feeling the energy of tricksters. She
Yes.
said, but there's something wrong with this energy. They're showing me themselves as tricksters, but the energy is wrong. So I don't really believe they're tricksters. There's
Mhm.
something else portraying tricksters. But she says everything has an energy signature, and
Mhm.
it's very, very unusual for her not to be able to identify something through its energy signature. And if she can't, then it's coming in from another realm that she's never experienced before. So
Yeah.
she says that all the time. She says, Al, everything has its own energy signature. And that's how she knows what she's dealing with when I go out and she says, oh, like Native Americans, slaves, Revolutionary War colonels, soldiers. She just knows. I mean, it's mind boggling, but it's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
And I believe that too. I definitely believe that because it's like I can't explain it. It's just somehow I know like if a spirit guide comes to me to give me information, I know it's a spirit guide and it's not an angel. Even if I'm just hearing, you know, or I know it's somebody that's crossed over and it's not a spirit guide. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but I feel it, and it's like I just know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a feeling. You just know. Yeah. Like when
Mm-hmm.
I hear that little voice in my head, like I'll hear the voice say, do this, do that. It may sound like me in my head, but that's not me telling me to do that. You know what I mean? That's my
Right.
spirit guide or my, guardian angel telling me to do this. But then there are times when I hear voices in my head, like the time with the dog man when I heard you should stop right there before you get shredded. That wasn't
Yeah.
That's my spirit guide telling me that. That was a dog man telling me that. You know what I mean? You're getting too damn close to me, and you're in the danger zone. And so
Oh,
there
yeah.
were and I don't know how I know who it is, but you just know that this is not your spirit guide telling you this. This is not even if everything comes in your own voice. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
the energy signature that it comes through in that tells you what's what. And it's so strange. I mean, I never claimed to be psychic by any stretch of the imagination. My mother was, but as I do this, the longer I do this, the more my abilities get stronger and stuff like that. And like when she tells me, like, the first time she told me it's an energy signature, I couldn't wrap my head around it. Now I know exactly what she's talking about after all these years, because now I can feel the difference between it, even though the voice sounds like me. Not the same energy talking to me, you know what I mean?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, you may have developed, over time, you may have developed your abilities, Al. And, really.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't go out and practice, because she says, if she always said, if you ever really want to get into this, let me know and I'll guide you. She goes, but once you open this door, you can't close it, And I'm more like, no, I'll use you for your abilities, and what trickles off of you onto me over the years, like the residue that it comes to me, I'll take, but I really don't want to jump into it with both feet. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. I mean, yeah, like I said, like every psychic I've ever worked with said I'm psychic, but I'll never admit to it. I was like, I get a vibe. I always call it a vibe, and they're like, no, Al, it's more than a vibe, but it is what it is. Like there was an experience I had. I was holding down a route in North Yonkers, right?
Okay.
And it was just all these big buildings down this one road. But there were so many people that lived in those buildings. It was an all-day affair, okay? And at the end of the road, and you could see the beginning of the route to the end of the route, it's, because it was a straightaway, maybe a half a mile or, whatever. But at the end of the road, there was all the buildings were condominiums, except for at the end of the road. It was a condo complex, and it was more like something you would find in a rural, not in the city, and it had a big pool in the middle. But the very last house you delivered the mail to, when you came down your steps, it puts you on not a bridle path, an aqueduct path. They use this path to run water from the Catskill Mountains down to Manhattan, in the city. So it's this wooded path with this, that the water runs underneath. And, water is a conductor of energy, right? And so what I used to do is everybody used to tell me, make sure you're done with that route before it gets dark. Make sure you get done, and make sure you drive to each building in your car. Don't park at the beginning of the route and walk back on the aqueduct, because the aqueduct, bad things happen on the aqueduct. I'm a guy from the street. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not moving my car forward.
Go get them out.
You know what I mean? So I would finish on the last house, and it was fine during the summer when I had the route, because the sun doesn't go down till 9:00. But when the winter came around and it got dark at 4, and I'm not getting done with the route till 6, and I have to walk back on the aqueduct to my car, it's dark. Okay. And I have a headlamp on, and the reason I take the aqueduct back to my car, because it makes the walk back to the car like half the distance. Instead of walking down the street, it's just cut straight across.
Okay.
So just around, and I would say in the fall, just before the clocks change and everything, and it was still light out pretty late. I've been on this route the whole summer. I haven't had any problems on the route. I'm walking down the path one day, and I noticed that in between these giant condominium buildings are private homes, and all the private homes have these 10-foot fences with these killer dogs behind them. Dobermans, German Shepherds, Great Danes, Pit Bulls, And I'm thinking, This is a really, really high-end part of town, and the mayor lives here, the police chief police lives here. All of those buildings have high-end executives, they take the train to the city. Why these giant fences? Why these killer dogs?
Yeah.
I would walk by those fences and I'd throw milk bones over the fence to all the dogs because I wanted the dogs to like me. You know what I mean? So when they seen me, they didn't go crazy. One day I'm walking down the path and I feel like something is following me. And I turn around and I look and I don't see nothing, but it's an energy signature I'm feeling,
Yeah.
And I'm walking, and in the beginning, as I was walking past the private homes, the dogs were just like wagging their tail waiting for their bone, right? About halfway through that, the dogs all changed and they all got really, really aggressive. And I couldn't even go up to the fence to put a bone through the fence. I would have to throw it over the fence from a distance because I don't want the dogs to rip my fingers off, right? But the dogs all became really aggressive. And I'm feeling something follow me. And I'm looking at the dogs. The dogs aren't looking at me. They're looking behind me. So I'm saying they're seeing something that I'm not seeing.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something in a different spectrum of light that I can't see that's following me. So at this point in time in my career, I used to carry two cans of pepper spray with me. Okay, because there was a time I got attacked by a dog, and the dog put my bag in his mouth, and he put the can in his mouth, and I wasn't going to reach into the dog's mouth to get the pepper spray, so I started carrying two, one on each side of the bag. So
I don't blame you.
So anyway, I feel like there's something standing in the bushes. So I grab both cans of pepper spray off the bag, and I run over to the bush where I think this energy is. And I spray this bush down with this red pepper spray. Because I think if there's something there, the pepper spray is going to outline it because it's red. I don't see nothing. I don't see anything leave. I don't see anything move. I don't see any outline of anything. But I know something's following me. So
yeah, you can feel it.
So I go to the car. I get in the car. The next day, I'm back in the buildings. I'm delivering the mail, and I'm talking to one of the supers. And I noticed that the buildings that faced the aqueduct had a big turnover. A lot of people would move in. A lot of people would move out. The ones on the other side of the street that faced the Hudson River, people never moved out of those buildings. I was like, what's going on here? Now the little light bulb goes on. Something's going on here. Why are these people moving out of these high-end buildings,
Right.
So I'm talking to the super one day, and I says, hey, Julio, what's going on here? What's the deal with these buildings, and what's the deal with this aqueduct? And he says, oh, Alfred, he says, you don't want to know what's going on. He said, don't ask questions. No one wants to talk about it.
Strange.
So I'm like, so now I gotta know, right? So I'm like,
right.
So I seen him the next day, and I was like, Julio, what's going on? And he says, let me tell you what I experienced. I said, okay. He says, I was up on the roof checking the pH level on the pool. They had the pools on the roof of these buildings, right? That's how high-end these buildings are. And they had one on the roof and one in the basement, and indoor and outdoor pools, right? Because I'm up on the roof, 8-10 stories high. He says, checking the pH level. Something comes out of the pool on the other side. It's invisible. It walks to the edge of the building, he said, and he's seen what look like alligator footprints. Walks to the end. And he said, whatever it was, it jumped off the building and it landed in the aqueduct, on the dirt in the aqueduct. But when it landed, I guess the impact of the landing made this thing become visible. Okay? And he's seen it. And he called it a chupacabra. He said, the chupacabra lives in those woods. Don't walk home. Don't walk back to your car in those woods. The chupacabra lives in those woods. So I was like, I didn't know what a chupacabra was at the time. So I start talking to all the Spanish guys I know at work, and they're telling me what the chupacabra is. And I look it up, and it's this little thing. And I was like, no, this guy says it's like 6 feet tall. It looks like like a lizard man. And so now I'm curious, right? Now I'm picking everybody's brains on the route. Whenever I see anybody, the first house on the route belonged to a football player, played for the New York Jets. And we always talk football every time I got there, especially in the off season, we always talk football. And I said, and he was a big dude. He was like 6'5", 350 pounds. He was a big dude,
Wow.
And he had this monster English Mastiff in his yard, this giant dog. And I said to him, hey, like Daryl, I forgot his name. I go, Daryl, what's the deal with your dog, man? Why such a big dog? And he goes, Al, let me tell you a story. He says, I got up one night to go to the bathroom, 3 o'clock in the morning. Because when we first moved into this house,
wait. Did you say 2 or 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock in the morning.
3 o'clock. Okay.
He got up around 3 to go to the bathroom. And his bathroom window overlooked the backyard, which overlooked the aqueduct. He said he was in the bathroom doing his business, and he said when he first bought the house, it had like a little 3-foot fence around it, He looked in the yard, and he seen what looked like a dude jump over the fence and go towards his back door. So he wakes his wife up. He says, call 911. Someone's trying to grabs a baseball bat, and he goes down to the back door to confront this guy he thinks trying to break into his house. So he opened up the door. He said, and there was a creature standing there. He said, it looked like an alien. It looked like a reptilian. It looked like an alligator. He said it had really long claws. He said, but the weirdest thing was he wasn't trying to break the windows to get in. He was clawing through the back door because his back door was wood. He was clawing through the door. So he grabbed the baseball bat. He hit the damn thing with it, closed the door because he didn't expect to see a creature. He expected to see a person,
Yeah.
Runs, jumps over the fence, runs back into the woods. The cops come. The cops are there like in 2 seconds. And the cops tell him, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. Just keep it to yourself. Don't tell anybody anything. Okay. Yeah. So he says, I don't know what it was. I couldn't tell you what it was, but he said it was a creature. I was like, okay. So then I'm doing the route. Saturday's a big day. You see a lot of homeowners cutting grass, trimming hedges. And there was a woman who lived in a house. I called her Big Mama. She ran a halfway house for battered women. And,
nice.
And she had this really big colonial house. It was humongous. But there was like 100 steps to the front door. And Saturday was her grocery day. So if I come down the street and I see her carrying groceries, I always help her carry the groceries upstairs.
Oh, that's so nice.
So I was talking to her one day, and I go, hey, Big Mama, have you ever seen anything unusual in the woods? And she says, Al, let me tell you a story. She goes, you see old Blue over here? And she had a pit bull, a blue pit bull, right? But the dog had a ton of scars on him. I said, yeah, I see you. You see Blue? I go, yeah, I see Blue. And she goes, one time, she goes, there was a night when all the girls went up to sleep. And she goes, the fence in my backyard was low, like a 4-foot fence. Something jumped over the fence. It was scratching its way through the door. Blue heard it, charged downstairs thinking it was someone trying to break in. And Blue was fighting with this creature. And this creature tore Blue up with its claws. All the women came down with brooms and mops and everything, and they started beating this thing off the dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they called the cops. The cops came. The cops actually saved the dog. They brought the dog to the emergency room, the animal hospital, and they were able to save it.
Okay. Can I stop you there? I have to ask this. Okay, so taking the dog to the animal hospital, how did you explain that?
I don't know how the cops explained it. They just said the dog was attacked by something in the woods.
Okay, I got you.
And so they actually saved Blue, and the cops told her and the cops told the football player, get metal doors. wood is no good. If you live over here, you need metal doors, like fire doors in the backyard. Wood is no good. What's ever living in these woods can claw through it, but it doesn't break the window to get in. It only claws through wood.
That's so strange.
So she's telling me the story. She had to get another dog because Blue was half dead after this thing. So she got another pit bull, Sandy. He was like a beige colored dog. Called him Sandy. And I mean, her dogs were sweethearts, but I guess if you try to break in, it would be a different story. So I'm hearing all these stories on the route, and I'm thinking, what the hell is going on in this route? So now I'm getting to this one particular building. It was like two buildings in one. There was a breezeway on the outside that connected both buildings. One was like 6 stories, one was like 5 stories. And both of these buildings had courtyards. And I started noticing the mailboxes were on the breezeway. And I started noticing when the kids were coming home from school, they were getting off the elevator and they were just running to their apartments. They weren't looking around. They weren't farting around on the breezeway, playing with each other or anything. They just get off the elevator and they hauled ass to their apartments. So what's going on? And then I noticed the women coming home from work, they would do the same thing. When the woman got off the elevator, they didn't even check the mail. They just went right to their apartment and closed the door. So I was talking. So I'm talking to Julio and I'm saying, he said, all the doors used to be framed in wood. We had to change all the windows and all the frames on the sliding glass doors to metal because something was trying to crawl. Something was crawling up the side of the building or jumping up the building, like
oh my goodness,
taking patio furniture, putting it on the aqueduct, sitting on the aqueduct and looking at the building. Freaking people out. People were moving in and out of this building like it's crazy. So I'm hearing all these stories. I'm like, oh my God, this is absolutely nuts, right? So at the beginning of the route, there was another huge building at the beginning of the route, and it had 2 sides, a north and a south side. And there was a young girl who lived on the north side. She was like 20-something years old. She was a lawyer. She worked in the city, and she lived on the first floor. And her father was a judge. And they lived on the other side of the building, but they lived up on the 3rd floor. And all of the windows on the side of the building that faced the aqueduct had like bars on them, right?
Really?
I'm looking at these windows and I'm saying, if there's a fire in this building, these people can't even get out. This is insane, right? So I used to talk to this girl on Saturday, always made small talk, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And one day I hear her in the getting ready to come out of her apartment. And she's like, if there's anybody in the hallway, you have to leave. And I'm like, Susie, it's Al, the mailman. What are you talking about? She says, Al, please go to the other side of the building. I'm coming out. I go, so what? She goes, no, my dog doesn't like anybody. You got to leave. Dog? You never had a dog. All of a sudden you got a dog. She comes out with this giant German Shepherd that just wanted to eat me alive. Okay. And so I'm on the other side of the building. The dog. So I said, so she comes, she walks the dog, she comes back in, she puts the dog in the apartment, she comes back out to get her mail. And I'm like, what's the deal with the dog? You never had this dog before. And then you didn't even get a puppy. She got a full-grown attack dog. She said, let me tell you what happened to me. There's a spot in front of the aqueduct where nobody parks their car. It's always available. That's where I used to park my car all the time because that spot was always available.
What?
So she came home from the city late one night, partying after work, and there was no spots on the street. So she parked the only spot that was left in front of the act. She said, I got out of my car, hit my alarm, and started walking to the door, and I seen something flash on the aqueduct. All I seen was green eyes flash. She said, Al, it scared the hell out of me. She said, I took off running to the building, and this thing came running after me. And her building had a really big, heavy wooden door you've got to go into to get into the foyer, and then a glass door on the other side. She said, I just made it to the wooden door when this thing hit the door. I was holding it, and this thing hit the door, sent me flying. She was like, I was able to get the key, the other door, and get in the building and close the glass door when this thing came like scratching its way through the wooden door, but it couldn't get through the glass. It scratched the glass. And she said, I don't
Okay.
know what it was, but it scared me half to death. I called my father. My father came down with his gun, and his father took shots at it on the aqueduct in the middle of the city, shooting at it with his 357 Magnum. Of course, the cops come and they see it's the judge, and this guy was like a Supreme Court judge, a New York State judge. And they just told me that something tried to attack my daughter, and that's why she's got the dog. So I'm thinking, what the hell am I dealing with here? This is insane, right?
Right.
So one day I'm delivering the mail in that building again. I'm out on the foyer, the breezeway, and it's open breezeway. So, it's not like closed in or anything. It's just open. It attaches both buildings. It's like a shortcut to get to the other building. And I got my back to it, and I feel like something is staring at me. So I deliver the mail, and I turn around, and I'm looking down. I'm up on like the third floor. I'm looking down at the courtyard, beautiful courtyard, barbecue pits, picnic tables. There was like a retaining wall that had to be like 10 feet high, all cinder block, beautiful. And I'm looking down, and I'm looking at the aqueduct, and I'm looking, and I'm feeling this thing's energy, and I'm right where I think it is. And I say to it telepathically, I know you're there, and I know you can see me.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I can't see you, I feel your energy. I know you're there. So you might as well show yourself to me. And then it flashed these green eyes. Like, yeah, I'm here. And I said, I'll be right down. And I went down to the courtyard, and I went into the courtyard, and all I had was 2 cans of pepper spray on me. And I went into the courtyard. Now I'm looking up at this 10-foot retaining wall. And if this thing is 6 feet tall, it's like 16 feet tall, right? So I said, this is no good. I got to get up higher. So I climbed up on one of the picnic tables. So I was higher, at least a little bit higher than just being down. And I'm looking at it, and it's invisible. All I'm seeing is green eyes. And I said, okay. And telepathically, I'm saying, I'm not afraid of you. I know what you are. I'm not afraid of you. You might as well show yourself to me. And then it shows itself to me. And it's got like a belly like an alligator. It's got green color like a lizard or a reptilian.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's got an exoskeleton kind of head. You know what I mean? Like an I called it, when I first seen it, the first thing it reminded me of was the Green Goblin from the Spider-Man movies.
Okay.
That's what it looked like to me.
Okay.
I'm looking at it, and I'm saying, what the hell are you? And I'm calling it the Green Goblin because that's what it looked like to me,
Yeah.
The energy it was given off was that it was a cave dweller. I don't know if it was alien or if it came from a different dimension. That I couldn't tell you. But also, the energy was given off of, it wasn't that intelligent.
Really?
And I didn't feel like I was dealing with necessarily an intelligent entity. I felt like I was dealing with something that was just naturally knew what it had to do to survive and knew how to do. And I felt like it lived there. There was caves in these woods, and okay. I think it lived in the caves. I felt like it was a cave dweller. I believed it lived in those caves, and those caves went underneath the building all the way to the Hudson River, because they used to run liquor through them back in the old days, And I'm looking at this thing, and it's looking at me, and it's got these long ass claws on its fingernails, like 5-6 inch claws on its fingernails. And it's a big thing. It's as tall as me, 6 foot tall. It's got to weigh a couple 100 pounds, 200 pounds, maybe 250. I don't know.
Sure.
It's muscle, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at this thing. And what I was getting telepathically was, why aren't you afraid of me? Everybody else is afraid of me. Why aren't you afraid of me? And I don't know why I wasn't afraid of him. I just felt like it didn't scare me. I don't know why it didn't scare me. And he knew he couldn't scare me, because that day I sprayed him down with the pepper spray. He was there. You know what I mean? He didn't leave.
Uh-huh.
He stood still so I wouldn't see him. But he could have shredded me right then and there with those claws. but I don't know if the pepper spray had any effect on him or not. You know what I mean? It looked like he was wearing a helmet for all I know. Because like I said, his head looked looked like an ant head, exoskeleton kind of head, but his body didn't look like that.
But you can feel it though. I get what you're saying. I get exactly what you're saying. You can feel it. It's like the discernment of spirit. You can tell even on other entities from other realms, like, are they positive or negative? At least the energy they're emitting in that moment.
Yeah, and I don't feel that it was actually a negative entity. I think it got off on scaring people. It was a game to it. And I think that's why it used to take the patio furniture and sit on the aqueduct and look up at the building and just look at the building and try to figure out how to break in, And I think all the maintenance guys, which were all Spanish guys, they all knew about it. Jose told them everything, and he explained what it looked like and everything. And so they all knew about it. And the Spanish guys were deathly afraid of it. They didn't work. Once it got dark, that they went home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're scaring the hell out of all the little kids in this building. You're scaring the hell out of the women in this building. People are moving in and out of here like it's a hotel. And like I said, I always took that aqueduct, even at the end when I was holding the route down at night. Like I said, I didn't walk the street back to my car, which would have been an easiest thing to do because they had the street lights. I bought a headlamp and walked back on the aqueduct at night with the headlamp on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I did have a survival knife in my bag. I did weapon up. Yeah. Just in case I had to, because the thing had really long claws, so.
Yeah.
But,
and also on that note, Jack Mack has a very good question or statement. He said maybe it's afraid of glass. So could it be that the claws made it hard with the glass, or it could be seeing a reflection in the glass as to why they would try to go through the wood instead of the glass? What are your thoughts on that?
I just thought it didn't know what glass was. I just felt that it didn't realize that if you hit that glass hard enough, it would break. He may have clawed the glass, and the glass didn't break because he didn't hit it hard enough. Where he knew wood was soft and it would be easy to go through.
Right?
Because
I'm just imagining, like, I can see this being seeing its reflection in the window and like, oh shoot, what is that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no, I mean,
what are you?
I don't know if we could see its reflection in the window because most of the time it was at night, and it's unless there's a full moon or something, because like I said, most of these houses face the woods and it's dark and everything with the trees, the canopy and everything. But I don't know. It could have seen its reflection. Maybe it scared itself. I don't know. But the vibe I got was that it wasn't that intelligent, and the vibe I got was that it was definitely a cave dweller, and it was definitely living in those caves, and maybe those caves went into a different dimension somewhere, if you go down deep enough. I've never been in those caves. I didn't have no desire to go in those caves, especially since I lived in those caves. I don't want to run into a whole pack of those things. You know what I mean?
No, I don't blame you.
But yeah, for some reason, and I told my brother about it. I called my brother in Michigan. I said, Frank, you're not going to believe what I'm dealing with, man. And I told him, I called it the Green Goblin. And he said, Al, whatever you do, don't say Green Goblin when you do a radio interview. People are going to think you're an idiot. He said, call it a reptilian or an insectoid, but don't call it a Green Goblin. I said, but I don't think it was a reptilian or an insectoid. I think it was something else.
Okay.
Because I think the insectoids and the reptilians, if they are aliens from outer space, they're much more intelligent than this thing is,
Okay.
This thing was it knew how to survive, and it knew what it had to do to survive. But yeah, and the funny thing about this aqueduct, it runs from the really high end part of town down the hood, and when I was delivering down in the hood, because I delivered everywhere, the gangbangers used to have their pit bulls fighting in the courtyards, and they would tell me, the gangbangers would tell me, dude, whatever you do, don't go back through those woods, man. There's a creature in those woods. We don't even walk our dogs up there, and we're all packing heat, He said, don't. I said, nah, I'm not worried about that thing. I'll go through the woods. And they looked at me like, man, you were crazy to go in there. They didn't even bring their dogs on the aqueduct to let them run or anything. They just won't go up on it, not even during the day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And like I said, this is a long stretch of road. It's, miles between the nice section and the hood. You got really high end, and then it gets less and less as you go down, middle class, lower middle class, then poor people, and gangbangers wouldn't walk their dogs on the aqueduct. They said, no, man, we don't go up there. I was like, what do you mean you don't go up there? You're fighting pit bulls in the courtyard. You're not going to walk your dogs. And he goes, no, we don't go up there, man. There's something up there, the creature up there. And who knows? Maybe these guys shot at it and they didn't kill it or something, and it scared them to death. I never really got into a long conversation with the gangbangers, just hello and goodbye, But it was wild stuff, just crazy thing. And it's funny that everybody who lived in that area knew about it, and nobody talked about it,
See, isn't that the thing? But a lot of times people just don't talk about it because of, being crazy or, whatever.
Yeah, now once I knew about it, I got to pick everybody's brain, from the richest person at the north end of the street to the poorest person on the south end of the street, and they're like, oh, no, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. No, don't, I don't even want to mention its name. I don't want to talk about it. It's a demon. A lot of the older black folks thought it was a demon, Again, being scared and not knowing what it was right away. They went to demon. And I was like, I don't think it's a demon, but I don't know what it is, so I couldn't tell you. But wild stuff, man, just crazy.
Wow. I have absolutely enjoyed this so much because, you've got such amazing stories. You and Brian, I'm telling you what, it's like the two of you have stories that just like blow me away. Things that I think part of it is, yes, you're investigators, but you're like you're like so much deeper than that, where you have these, do you call it organizations is it organizations or what is it?
Well, the BPS the BPS is just, I call it a society, but the UFO, the Sasquatch, we call the Sasquatch group an organization, you know what I mean? Try to change the names up a little bit so they all don't sound the same, because it all started with the Bronxville Paranormal Society, because when we started getting popular and getting invited to symposiums, if we got invited to like a UFO symposium and we got our banner up, which is like it's the all-seeing eye, and it's also the old hermit from the tarot cards. So those are our logos. People see that and they say, oh, what are these ghost hunters doing here? This is a UFO convention. So we had to create all the other teams with all the other banners, so when we go to these symposiums, we don't have to fight with people, you know what I mean? Because if you're going to a Bigfoot convention and they see a ghost hunting banner, like, what are these guys doing here? They don't know anything about Bigfoots, but we always did everything. You know what I mean? We investigated everything from day one, and we used all of our ghost hunting equipment to investigate everything because that's all the equipment we had,
Mm-hmm.
And so we all felt that all of this stuff was connected. We just didn't know how, you know what I mean? So that was our goal. Investigate everything and find the link that puts them all together,
That's it. Link it. Exactly.
We did. It's consciousness. It really is.
It is. That is so true. I'm so glad you're saying that. Because I I have been through other people, other YouTube channels. People have been bringing up the idea that I may have pattern recognition.
Okay.
In addition, to the other, that it may not all be like psychic per se. It may be pattern recognition.
Okay.
Because I link things. I link. I just link.
Yeah,
I don't know how to explain it.
And let me tell you something. When Brian and I started, higher consciousness and stuff like that wasn't even on our radar. We used to look at people that talked about that stuff like crazy. Like, we may have the aluminum foil on our head, but you guys are crazy, not us. And as time went on and we realized it's vibration, it's frequency, it's consciousness, we realized, wow, those guys were ahead of the curve. They really knew what they were talking about. We were the ones who were idiots,
Yeah,
But,
right.
You live and you learn, It's just, it's all about experiencing everything there's out there to experience, and both of us, basically everybody on the team are like ghost magnets. So whenever we go out, stuff happens. I can't tell you one investigation that we've ever done that we didn't have something happen on.
That's awesome.
People say,
not normal.
People say, when you can go out and nothing happens on. Not for us. And it's just our energy. It's everybody's energy. It's Cindy, the psychic's energy. She says I'm a conduit. She reads everything through me. So I believe her energy is out there. I'm taking her energy with me. When I call her on the phone and she's reading the energy of the location.
Yeah.
So, it's just everything all connected, coming together. Yeah. And,
yes. And I want to ask you real quick. Jack Mack wants to know, do you know, come on, mouse. Do you know Sylvia Brown, or have you met Sylvia Brown or Matt Fraser?
No, I haven't met either one of them. No.
Okay. And so would you mind to say some of the psychics that you do know or have met?
I've met a lot of psychics over here, a lot of world-renowned psychics at symposiums. I don't like to mention any names because I don't want to leave anybody out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't want to offend anybody. Yeah. The last thing I want to do. So I just usually, when people ask me who I've met, I just say I've met a bunch of world-renowned psychics.
A bunch.
And I always have the same question for every single one of them. What are the Bigfoots and what are the Dogmen? And they all tell me the same thing. They come from a different dimension. Every single one of them has said that to me.
Oh my gosh, Al, that is so true. We'll have to do another. Oh my gosh, we've got to do another on Bigfoot. Oh my gosh, on so many others on different things. But yes, we've got to do one on Bigfoot because yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's not like when I talk to these psychics, they're all sitting at the same table. It's this guy at this convention, this woman at that convention, different conventions, different times, places, different states. But my question is always the same to all of them, because these are people that I know are legit. These are the real deal.
Yeah.
So I always have where do these creatures come from? And they all say to a person, they all say the same thing. They're interdimensional. And if these people all say that, if every world-renowned psychic I know says that, then I have to believe them when they say it.
Yes.
I mean?
See, when I was bedfast, when I was going through the awakening in the very beginning, so I was bedfast, which made me go into my awakening or helped me go into my awakening in the beginning of it. So I believe we're continually awakening, but the very first big, and I kid you not, I was laying there wide awake and I saw Bigfoot. My ceilings were 9 foot high, and I literally saw a hologram, not a real Bigfoot, a hologram of a Bigfoot literally coming through the wall into my bedroom, stood at the foot of my bed, and was telepathically explaining things to me, because I had already been having different experiences with extraterrestrials, all within consciousness, but with extraterrestrials, beautiful big angelic lights, big balls of light, just the brightest. I can't even describe it. So all these different experiences happening that was so amazing. And then here's Bigfoot in my bedroom. And so I'm like, why am I seeing a hologram? Because, I honestly, at that time, I thought I was just losing it. I did.
I try to rationalize everything, and I can't tell you how many times I call my brother and say, Frank, I think I'm losing my mind, I do.
Honestly, what would you do if you were not a paranormal investigator and your wife looked at you and said, honey, Bigfoot was just at the foot of the bed? What would you do?
I tell her to have another drink.
So that was my predicament. At the time, I was afraid to say anything to my husband because he knew that I had experiences, because he knew that I was born that way. Yeah. But it was never UFO related at that time. And it, prior to the awakening process, it was always just like, spirits, ghosts, that kind of thing. And kind of like prophetic dreams and visions. Never this stuff. Never. Yeah. So I really was like on the fence about, do I even tell him this? And finally I got up the courage to tell him. But it took, I had to, be honest, it took some time. But I told Connor Flynn. I don't know if you know Connor Flynn, but he's Bigfoot, in Florida. Okay, well, he actually put in his book about my experience. I was the paranormal experiencer then. I was Michelle Rogers then. Okay. But he put me in one of his books. I forget which one. But anyways, it's just, I hate to run it because I would love for us to do a show on Bigfoot and Sasquatch.
Yeah, next time we'll do Bigfoot. Yeah.
I would love
that. And I got a story about the Son of Sam and demons too. You know what I mean? Brian loves this experience, and he always makes me. Whenever we do interviews together, he always says, "Tell next time you bring Al, I'll tell him to talk about the Son of Sam thing." And I was like, "Oh God."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was real demonic shit. You know what I mean? That was talk about demons and angels. Yeah, that was scary stuff. Absolutely.
Okay, so like we're just gonna have to we're just all of us are just gonna have to just keep doing shows. I mean, we're just gonna have to keep doing shows because I mean honestly, this is real stuff.
This is real stuff. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and people need to hear this stuff. They really not just what people getting excited and just telling tales or myths. They need to know the truth about this stuff.
Yeah, I always tell people all the time, don't say Al's got great stories. Say Al's got great experiences, because they're not stories. I'm not making this shit up as I go. I don't exaggerate. I don't bullshit people. I tell it exactly how it happened, because the stuff that happens to me doesn't need to be exaggerated or embellished in any way, shape, or form, because it's so out of this world to begin with. It's so hard to believe to begin with. I don't need to dress it up in any way, shape, or form,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The real stuff is like the craziest stuff.
Yeah. Truth is stranger than fiction. Absolutely. Yeah.
It is. Okay. Well, I think, let's see, we've been going for a little over 2 hours. Okay. Are you good for us to go ahead and head off of here and be thinking about another show somewhere down the line when you're available?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Whenever you want me, you just reach out.
Okay. I mean, this is just great because, it's like you are so knowledgeable. Brian is so knowledgeable. Lynn is so knowledgeable. Cisco's so knowledgeable. It's like, wow, I mean, really, it's just like so amazing to me how it's like there's like a synergy is the best way that I can explain the feeling. It's like a synergy between us. It's like how things flow and with the information. And
I
and the
think
thought
there's a
process.
reason why we all know each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This didn't happen by accident. You know what I
Right.
mean? There are no
Right.
such things as coincidences. I've come to that conclusion a long time ago.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely believe that.
Yeah,
All
me
right,
too.
so thank you so much
No, thank
again,
you for
Al.
having me. Thank you.
You're so very welcome. Have a very blessed and lovely month, and many blessings to your family as
Thank you.
well. And talk to you soon.
Happy holidays. Absolutely.
You too. Bye bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions if you've made it this far, please put them in the regular comments. And when I can, as I can, I will try to get the information to you. And of course, if I don't have the information, I will reach out to Al or someone else that I can get the information for you. Okay. All right. So much love, everyone. Happy holidays. And I wish everyone the absolute best. Bye.